Hi everyone, SpiderMan 1991 here, and I'm here to do my weekly comic reviews for the comics that came out on January 18th, 2012. Okay, first, before I get into the reviews, let me just say that DC Comics has redesigned their logo. I've seen it. It's terrible. They should go back to the old one. That's all I'm saying for now. Now I get to the weekly reviews. First of all, once again, I think I'm doing DC first this week because I only got one DC comic because Justice League number 5 was supposed to come out this week, but it was delayed and now it's coming out next week. So I only got one comic from DC this week, and that is something that everyone's been talking about, Batman number 5. Okay, Batman's trapped in a maze by the Court of Owls, and he doesn't have his utility belt, and eventually, apparently, he's been trapped in there for 8 days, and just now he's found a fountain with some water in it, and out of desperation, he drinks some of it, but then he starts to think that the water could be drugged, and now, basically, Batman is kind of going on briefly hallucinates that his parents were trapped down there were also trapped down there by the Court of Owls, but it was just a hallucination. And also, while he's down there, he's discovering some other secret rooms, such as one with apparently all of the previous assassins trained by the court, and apparently the court trains their assassins since they were children, and also another room with all the victims that were put in the maze since it began, all of them with like pictures held up when they went mad and stuff. And right when Batman keeps coming back to the room with the pictures. He just keeps coming back there while going through the maze. I mean, it's pretty much the 2 points he keeps repeating are where he found the fountain, where he found the water, and where all the previous victims' pictures are. And when he gets there, like maybe the third time or something, the court's assassin Talon finds him, and the assassin sneaks up and basically stabs Batman right through his stomach. And, okay, keep in mind here, Batman's been at this for 8 days, okay? So, before you say anything like Batman was easily taken down, he just drank a bunch of water that was probably drugged, and also he's been stuck in a maze for about 8 days. Okay, 8 days. Okay, that would make anyone insane. And also the way they made this comic, it really does make you see the kinds of twists and turns that Batman's mind is taking, because for one minute you're reading it normally, like left to right, then you have to turn it sideways in order to read it, and then finally the pages were like printed upside down, which was, I think it was intentional, but it was really great the way they kind of showed off how Batman was sort of going insane with the maze and everything. I mean, this is a very good story. I mean, it started off with something like just Batman going against the secret society, but now apparently it's much more than that, because apparently they don't just want to kill their victims but make them insane too. And now Batman's pretty much been attacked and he's trapped in a maze, so he still has no idea how the hell he's going to get out of there. But I really do enjoy this series. I mean, Scott Snyder on Batman, I don't think I can say it enough, but he's an amazing writer on this comic. It's been one of my favorites of the New 52. I would definitely recommend this to anyone who for some reason hasn't checked this out yet, because it's very good, and you should really check it out. Alright, now for Marvel. Starting off with something that you're not going to see ever again after this month, I guess, at least maybe not for a while, but Avenging Spider-Man number 3. Okay, basically, Spider-Man gets J. Jonah Jameson out from finds a way to get Jonah out of the underground mole people city, and then pretty much Spider-Man, being the only hero left, challenges the leader of the mole warriors, Raktar, this guy right here, to a fight to pretty much battle for, I don't know, control of the underground and stuff. And during the fight, though, Spider-Man does lose. He does really take a beat down, and then he notices one of the rocks from that broke off from one of the Moleman's weapons, which was like this sort of super strong, unbeatable crystal. I mean, it was used in the sword that stabbed Red Hulk last issue. So Spider-Man grabs one of the rocks, like swings it around with his web, and this is just really funny because he knocks off the pants of Raktar. That's what happens. He breaks his belt, the pants fall, and because Spider-Man has shamed Raktar in battle, he wins, and now he's able to negotiate a treaty between the Mole Men and the Moloids, and also free the Mole Man from captivity. And right when this is going on, though, Red Hulk suddenly recovers, and by the time he arrives, all the treaties have been filled out, and they've reached their negotiations, so there's no one left for him to fight. And in the end, Spider-Man and Red Hulk go back to the surface, and Jonah's already there, safe and sound. And after that, Red Hulk pretty much says to Spider-Man, "Don't ever ask me for a ride again," and just leaps off. And then back in the underground city, Mole Man pretty much thinks to himself that how he was taken over so easily, and decides to, get stronger and stuff now. But I don't really see much of a continuation on that, because next story arc we're going to have a new team up featuring Hawkeye. But I'm not going to get this series from now on. I know I like it. It's a good fun series, but it's not really connected to Amazing Spider-Man. I mean, you can pretty much read this and not have to be dragged down by what's recently happened in Amazing Spider-Man. It's just basically Spider-Man teaming up with heroes, and these stories just kind of don't really take place in like a main sort of like you need to read them. It's more or less like, if you want to read them, read them. But I don't know. I mean, it's great that these things also this series does come with a free digital copy, which is great. Also have it on my phone, so I'm good. But between this and when I heard Scarlet Spider was coming out, I pretty much made a decision I would only get Amazing Spider-Man, maybe one other Spidey book. And my decision was Scarlet Spider, just because it seems like it's someone different and a very different character than Peter Parker. I mean, this is just pretty much, Spidey and Marvel and the Marvel Hero of the Week variety hour. That's really all this is. I mean, it's something great. I mean, it's great for casual readers, okay? It's for people who don't really want to, like, keep up with the story religiously. I mean, these things, just like, you can say, oh, hey, you like Hawkeye? Yeah, you like Spider-Man? Yeah, well, you can read these issues, and it's a good story. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, no problem. So, it's basically, Amazing Spider-Man is basically a wild card story. Well, not really a wild card, more of just less, like, you don't really need it to get the full Spider-Man experience. It's more or less an optional series that's really just for fun. So, yeah, if you can, I hope you enjoy this series, but I'm not going to be reading it anymore because I still want to be able to afford a lot of other comics, and right now I don't really have the money to be affording this and Scarlet Spider. Okay, moving right along. Here's something that I mentioned was part of a two-parter that was connected from one series and it's leading into another, one that I don't usually get. Continuing from last week's Amazing Spider-Man, Daredevil number 8. This is where once again, this is written by Mark Waid, but it picks up from the story arc last week with Amazing Spider-Man. Basically, once Black Cat's found Daredevil and Spider-Man, they get out of the collapsed tunnel. Then all three of them, Spidey, DD, and Cat, head over to the apartment of the inventor who created that hologram projector phone that was stolen from Horizon. And when they get there, Daredevil senses something, and they discover a safe, like sort of a panic room in the apartment. And there's the inventor safe and sound. And it turns out he actually paid someone to steal the phone for him, so that actually turns out he kind of faked the whole robbery, that the phone was stolen, so that he could take the technology and then sell it to some other third party so that he can make more money than he would have if he gave the design to Horizon Labs. So, and then also while Spider-Man concludes that, Daredevil concludes from the man's body sweat that he's been poisoned and he only has 10 minutes to live. So Spider-Man takes the inventor to the hospital while Daredevil and Black Cat go and try to get the hologram projector back. And while Daredevil is successful in getting the projector, when they arrive, though, they disable some security, then blazers shoot out, and then they split up. Daredevil finds the projector and he's able to get it. But meanwhile, Black Cat runs into an agent of, I think, a criminal empire called the Black Spectre, and they say that they want to that they were the ones who framed her because they want her to work for them and steal an object from Matt Murdock, and they will pay her handsomely. And then after they do the whole security, after they get the projector back, Daredevil and Black Cat kiss, and then Spider-Man's watching from a distance. And he says, "Oh, geez, this is where my supervillain origin comes from." Then later it cuts to Black Cat and Daredevil going back to Matt Murdock's apartment, and right in the middle of things, Matt's law partner Foggy Nelson calls and tells Matt that his father's body has been taken from his grave, and that's where the issue ends. Okay, so this is the first time I'm reading the new Daredevil series. I mean, I've heard a lot of people have given positive things about this, and I was thinking that maybe this could sort of be my intro just to get a sample of how the series is, and it's not bad. It's not that bad. For the Daredevil readers out there, make sure you do get the last issue of Amazing Spider-Man, because otherwise you'll be really confused about what happened here. But I mean, this is actually, it was easily something I could get. It was only, unlike most Marvel books, this one's $2.99, which is great. And it's still a great read. The ending, though, that did kind of make me want to check out Daredevil, and the issue itself, though, with Mark Waid, I mean, it was very good, and I kind of want to go back now and see the previous 7 issues that Mark Waid did. Fortunately, the first trade is going to be out next month, so I'll probably pre-order that off Amazon. Okay, now for my final comic. Amazing Spider-Man 678. Okay, now, everyone, I'm going to try to get this summary as clear as possible because this involves time travel. Yay! Alright, so Peter Parker arrives at Horizon Labs, and today he's supposed to sort of work with one of his colleagues, Grady, to sort of critique his work and stuff, which is something they do at Horizon, have someone else critique your work and blah blah blah. Anyways, Grady shows Peter his latest invention, which is sort of a doorway that lets you go 24 hours into the future. And when Grady goes in, he goes into the Horizon break room, and it's just regular the same. He comes back with the newspaper, comes back with tomorrow's Daily Bugle. And then when Peter enters the portal, he discovers New York City completely destroyed. And Peter is wondering what the hell happened, and he notices a watch, and he finds a watch from one of the victims that was frozen in the blast. Frozen at the time of the of whatever caused the destruction of the city, which says 3:10 the previous day. So Peter takes the watch back with him, and he talks to Grady about how the hell that could happen. And Grady says that in theory the door does take you 24 hours into the future, so it's actually letting you see what would happen in the next 24 hours if you weren't around. And in Peter's case, because he's Spider-Man, if he's not around, something bad's gonna happen. So now Peter takes the copy of the Daily Bugle that was from the future, and he decides to go through every single day event that mentions Spider-Man so that he can do it right and make sure that the terrible future where New York City is destroyed doesn't happen. And he has to do it all by 3:10 p.m. So he goes through the day, snatching that of everything the Bugle mentions, because he has Grady patched into his communication device in his Spider-Man headset and his Spider-Man mask, and he pretty much tells Grady to work with Spider-Man, so keeping his secret identity safe. Oh, but before he sets off, he says he has to call the FF and the Avengers, but Julia Carpenter appears and tells him that he has to do this by himself, otherwise the future could really be messed up. So Peter decides, okay, I'm doing this by myself, and then he goes through it, and he's going through, it's pretty much like a typical Spidey day. I mean, he stops a few purse snatchers, then he helps a woman deliver birth. Okay, maybe that's not typical, but then he fights a super villain, and then throughout the time, all the time he's doing this, Grady keeps checking the doorway back and and apparently the bad future is still there. So whatever, and by issue's end, the bad future still exists, and we also see this sort of parade celebrating another country, and a supervillain named the Flag Smasher is getting ready to attack and do something very bad, which might cause the event. And Peter's pretty much, it's almost 3:10, and Peter has no idea what the hell has happened. Okay, maybe this summary got a little confusing at the end, but basically, Spider-Man sees the future, and apparently he's the cause of New York being destroyed. Now he has to stop it. And he's really trying his best, using a newspaper from another future so that he can figure this out. But, you know, it's time travel. Everything is unpredictable with time travel. But, yeah, this is only going to be a 2-part story. Don't worry, everyone. This is part 1. Part 2 will come out, I think, next month. And we'll see what happens. It's still great. I like it, though. I mean, sure, like I said, it's time travel. It can be, whenever time travel does get involved with the story, it can be a little confusing. But, you know, if you pay close attention, you can figure it out as you go along. And if you have seen enough Doctor Who or watched the Back to the Future trilogy movies a ton of times, then you'll probably have a clear understanding. But this is still a great series. And again, Peter's actually seen what would happen if he wasn't around for 24 hours. Or, of course, 24 hours of that particular day, whatever. Anyways, now he has to try to save the future by fixing the present. That's what I'm saying. And that's all I have to say from my comic reviews this week. Okay, so quick round out. Amazing Spider-Man 678. Spider-Man has to save the future by making sure everything stays alive before 3:10 p.m. Daredevil, the conclusion to the 2-parter from last week's Amazing Spider-Man. I think Daredevil fans and Spider-Man fans will enjoy it. Make sure you read the last week's Amazing Spider-Man, though, so you know what's happening. And Avenging Spider-Man number 3. It's sort of a fun, really more or less a fun team-up book than something you actually need to read. So, you know, if you have the money, get it, but if not, you can pass. And Batman number 5. Definitely one of the best things that's come out of the New 52. Really love, Scott Snyder is brilliant on this series. Cannot wait for the next issue next month. And that's all I have to say. Spider-Man 1991 saying see you later.